Hi, I'm Reverend Carissa, and today is Monday, April 5th, Easter Monday. Happy Easter! Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. This is your final rooted reflection, the daily video devotions that we have been offering you as part of our clergy team's way of supporting you through Lent 2021. And we hope that you have enjoyed this series and found it meaningful. Please drop us a note, an email, a text, a call if you have been watching these. We would love to know what you thought and how they impacted you, and especially which ones impacted you most. Any chance we get to have conversations with you about your faith, it's just our favorite thing. Throughout this season, as you know, we've also taken our cues from this wilderness devotion booklet from A Sanctified Art. And one of the things I love most about it is the original art pieces that we've gotten to reflect on. And I love this because our faith has not just been about words and studying. Our faith involves our head and our heart and our hands. So this art engages our hearts and encourages us to connect all the different parts of our faith. On this Easter Monday, we have this joyful piece of art of Mary leaving the tomb, the empty tomb, as she is filled with joy. And so I simply want to offer this beautiful piece of joyful art and share with you this poem, Wilderness is the Birthplace of Joy. I used to know the wilderness only as pain, a land without food, a land without water, but you rained down manna and even water flows in your desert. I used to think the wilderness was total isolation, but the Israelites had each other, and you had the stars in the sky. So then I thought the wilderness must be time wasted, 40 years of circles, 40 years of wandering. But then I realized that each step is a step, and maybe there's growth in that. So then I concluded that wilderness must be lonely spaces, the woman and her well, the blind man and his gate, Martha and her kitchen, Peter and his fire. But Jesus, then you showed up to each of those places, to each of those faces. So now I wonder, what if the wilderness is the birthplace of creation? What if the wilderness is where the call begins? What if the wilderness is where joy is birthed? What if, between the dirt and the sky and that wide orange horizon, the wilderness is where we find you, God? Just an offering of this poem on this Easter Monday. What if the wilderness was the birthplace of joy? As we enter now into the season of Easter, celebrating the new life that we have found through Lent, I want to encourage you to take a moment, just a moment, even if it's just one literal minute, to write down somewhere, maybe on your phone, maybe on a scrap of paper, write down somewhere, field guide for yourself in the wilderness. As you have felt yourself going through a season of wilderness, maybe that wilderness has been these 40 days of Lent. Maybe the wilderness that you've been walking has been this time of pandemic. Maybe it's been a different time of wilderness, set off by a difficult event in your life. Whatever your wilderness time has been, on this day after Easter, as we bask in the glow of the resurrection, won't you take a moment and jot down for yourself a couple things that you have learned in the wilderness? A couple things that, if you should find yourself in the wilderness again, you hope you would know. Think of it in another way. If the wilderness is the place where joy is birthed, then what would you want to know next time you found yourself in the birthing room and going through those labor pains? What do you want to know? What have you learned? What have you seen in this wilderness? I hope that through it you have felt God's presence by your side. For God, I love this, shows up to each of those places and each of those faces. So the wilderness cannot be a place of loneliness. My friends, Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. May you find joy this day, and in any day that you are in the wilderness, may you look for the place where joy is birthed. Happy Easter.